1. Hebrews 11 verse 1. Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. In this verse we enter a realm where faith is described not as mere wishful thinking but as something firm, the assurance of things hoped for, and the conviction of things not seen. That means believing deeply in what we cannot yet hold in our hands or touch with our eyes. It is as if we place our hand into the invisible, trusting that the threads will hold. In the quiet of night, when uncertainty presses in, this verse whispers that faith gives a foundation for the unseen. We hope for something better, something true, and faith makes us sure. In the context of a soothing bedtime narration, you can imagine letting go of the visible burdens of the day and resting in the invisible promise that you are held. Faith here becomes the bedrock beneath rest, knowing that even though the physical world shifts and changes, there is something stable underneath, anchored beyond what you see. 2 Hebrews 11 verse 6. And without faith it is impossible to please him, for whoever would draw near to God must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who seek him. Here the tone deepens. Faith is not optional if you want to draw near to God. The verse says, it is impossible to please him without faith. Then it explains what this faith involves: believing that God exists and believing that he rewards those who seek him. In soothing voiceover style, one might slow down through these phrases so the listener can feel the weight and promise. Drawing near to God sounds like coming home, like entering a restful presence. Faith then becomes the gentle bridge across restless thoughts, a reassurance that the unseen God is real, that seeking him is not in vain, and that there is a reward, a good outcome for the searching heart. In the hush of the night, this verse can help the mind to settle. You are not alone, and your seeking counts. 3. Romans 10:17. So faith comes from hearing, and hearing through the word of Christ. This verse reminds us that faith doesn't arise in a vacuum. It says that faith comes from hearing, and specifically hearing through the word of Christ. In a restful reading, you can imagine the gentle drifting of words into the heart, like quiet rain soaking into dry soil. The word of Christ becomes the source of faith. So when someone listens, when someone allows the message of Christ to flow into their inner being, faith grows. For a bedtime-style narration, you could draw attention to the soft power of words, how letting the truth of a loving God brush against the mind can nurture faith, quiet fears, and invite rest. Faith here is not forced. It is cultivated through hearing, through opening gently, and allowing something good and true to sink in. 4. Ephesians 2 verses 8-9. For by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not your own doing. It is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast. In these 2 verses, we are led into the heart of grace, faith, and freedom. The narrator can slow the pace. By grace you have been saved through faith. That means you did not earn it. It is given. Then, this is not your own doing. It is the gift of God. Then, not a result of works, so that no one may boast. In restful voiceover style, one might pause to let these truths resonate. You didn't have to be perfect. You didn't have to fix everything. What matters is the faith through which you receive a gift. It invites the listener to lay down the burden of doing everything right, to receive grace. In the stillness before sleep, this can become a soothing release. You are accepted, you are held, your striving can rest. Faith here is the open hand receiving a gift, not the clenched hand struggling. 5. Matthew 21 verse 22. And whatever you ask in prayer, you will receive if you have faith. This verse speaks directly to the power of faith in prayer. And whatever you ask in prayer, you will receive if you have faith. In narration, it might help to reflect, not as a transactional guarantee, but as an invitation into trusting prayer. Imagine a heart sending up a quiet ask, and faith being the doorway through which the answer arrives. In the background of night, the listener can imagine whispering what weighs on them, and faith allowing it to pass into God's hands. The tone becomes hopeful, calm. Faith here is the hinge between our asking and God's responding, and the gentleness of night is a fitting time to breathe that in. It reassures that prayer is heard when faith is present. 6. 2 Corinthians 5 verse 7. For we walk by faith, not by sight. Such a short verse, but rich with meaning. We walk by faith, not by sight. In restful narration, you can draw out the imagery of walking in darkness with a light you cannot see fully, but trusting it anyway. Walking by sight means depending on what we see, what we can measure. But walking by faith means stepping forward when the path is not fully clear, trusting the steps will be guided. For a listener readying for sleep, this verse can help ease anxious thoughts of uncertainty. You don't have to rely only on what you can see or control. Faith carries you through. It's a gentle permission to release the need for full clarity, to trust the unseen companion who guides each step. Walking by faith becomes a lullaby for the restless mind. 7. Mark 11 verses 22 to 24. And Jesus answered them, have faith in God. Truly, I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, be taken up and thrown into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. These verses bring boldness to faith. Have faith in God. The imagery is vivid. Speaking to a mountain, telling it to move, believing without doubt, and claiming it as done. In a calm narration, you might emphasize the contrast between the mountain, a symbol of an immovable obstacle, and the power of faith. The listener can imagine whatever mountain stands before them, the worry, the fear, the barrier, and sense the strength of belief that says, this will pass, or I see beyond this. Then it says, whatever you ask in prayer, believe you have received, and it will be yours. At bedtime, this becomes an invitation to speak gentle truths to the mountains in our minds, to settle into the conviction that changes are possible. Faith here is active. It speaks, it believes, and it receives. 8. Luke 1 verse 37. For nothing will be impossible with God. Short, clear, and profound. Restful voiceover. For nothing will be impossible with God. The words can be stretched out, allowing the listener to feel the weight of nothing and impossible, and then the resolution with God. When night comes and doubts wander through the mind, about tomorrow, about what's ahead, this verse softly reassures that, with God, impossibilities lose their power. In the darkness of rest, your spirit can lean into possibility, can trust that the unseen God can do what seems beyond reach. Faith here becomes the soft exhale of, I don't have to fix everything. With God, nothing is impossible. It brings restful hope. 9. Romans 1 verse 17. For in the gospel the righteousness of God is revealed, a righteousness that is by faith from first to last, just as it is written, the righteous will live by faith. This verse connects gospel truth to faith. The righteousness of God is revealed, and that righteousness is by faith, from first to last. Then, the righteous will live by faith. In a soothing script you can reflect, living by faith is the ongoing posture of the heart. It's not a one-time event, but a continual way of being. The gospel reveals God's righteous character, and faith engages that revelation, so our lives respond. For someone heading to sleep, this verse invites a gentle reflection. My life is not entirely about striving. It's about living by faith. Even as thoughts slow and consciousness drifts, the mind knows its identity. one who lives by faith. It becomes a restful identity, not a striving identity. Faith here is the steady stream of life. 10. James 2 verse 19. You believe that God is one, you do well. Even the demons believe and shudder. This verse may seem strong. The demons believe and shudder. But it brings important depth to faith. Belief alone, in the sense of intellectual assent, is not enough. The type of faith that presses into life matters. In a gentle narration you might emphasize, you believe that God is one. Good. Even the demons believe and shudder. So belief is not the whole story. At bedtime, this can direct the listener to reflect. What kind of faith do I hold? Is it alive? Is it active? Does it change me? As the mind begins to quiet down, this verse gives a final, reflective note. Faith is more than simply acknowledging truth. It is embracing it, being transformed by it. It invites calm accountability in a restful way. Faith that lives, faith that rests, faith that acts. Thank you for journeying through these 10 powerful verses on faith. As you settle into rest, let your mind revisit each promise slowly. Let faith rise in the quiet spaces between thoughts. May the unseen become your comfort. May your heart rest in the assurance of what you hope for, the conviction of what you don't yet see. Thank you for listening. Please make sure to like and subscribe for more Bible verse for sleep. See you next time.